deieties gefjon hör, men glada Freya Völva Marta vanadis gefjon hör, men glada Freya Völva Marta vanadis gefjon hör, men glada Freya Völva Marta vanadis gefjon hör, men glada.
Warrior Goddess wisdom is so essential. This mini-guide will serve as a compass to help you stay pointed in the right direction and focused on your own inner desires, dreams, and destiny. Each page offers a simple daily practice that contains a quote, a short reflection, and a daily action or mantra. These passages are designed to guide you back to yourself, to help you seek your own answers, and to explore your inner knowing. Your own deep wisdom will be your best teacher and friend on this journey.
We are going to talk about how to connect with Freya. Seder, magic, wealth, prosperity, abundance, ancestral veneration, warcraft, and power. And these are not minor facets of her nature either. She is danger and unstoppable. She will tease and entice, transforming the soul. She is less a goddess of fertility and more that of synergetic attraction, which opens the door to blossoming abundance. She is a goddess of passionate fulfillment in life, be it giving one's all in love, in battle, or in pursuit of one's chosen craft. So why would you want to connect with Freya? To me, Freya is much more than that. She is a priestess, a teacher of Seder, and several other forms of what I would call intuitive magic. For those who are trying to grasp the northern tradition or engage it in spiritual practice, she is absolutely perfect to reach out to. I would very much advise to call on her also for spiritual protection. She has a lot to teach.
The term Seder became the word to designate Norse witchcraft in general. Every type of Norse traditional magic goes into the bag of Seder. This is a common mistake because of the lack of information about other magical arts of Old Norse societies. Seder is a term which often appears in the sources and was spread in hundreds of academic works. So the idea of Seder being the equivalent of Norse witchcraft was highly promoted. Also, it's important to remember that the most common term in the sources when referring to someone who possesses magical knowledge and abilities is actually Fjordkuning. Now, Seder is not witchcraft in its original sense. It's a far more complex activity, which requires a vast amount of knowledge of both science and techniques to induce altered states of consciousness. Seder is an ancient pre-Christian Norse form of divination, magic, and shamanism, and was regenerative in nature and also with a connection to the resurrection of the dead. Seder means cord, string, because its main purpose is to alter the course of destiny by reweaving parts of the destiny's web. But as I've said, Seder is a form of magic and shamanism. It's the combination of traditional science used to cause changes with a much more complex state of consciousness using trance techniques to achieve one's purpose. Seder is about ritualistic actions performed for divination, for seeking what is hidden from us, what we can't simply come in contact with in our natural state of existence. The aim is to both acquire the knowledge of the secrets of the mind and of physical locations. The hidden knowledge gained through Seder could be used for a variety of things, such as healing the sick, to influence good luck, to control the weather, influence animals, etc. Beneficial actions. However, it could also be used for the exact opposite, to curse, to induce illness, to injure and even kill. If you know how to create something, you can also undo it and reshape it, give it a different purpose. This is why Seder is associated with strings, chords, the art of spinning and weaving, bending your will and power to weave and create something. You undo it, rework, reshape, pull and push the strings and create something completely different with other purposes. It's the art of influencing events. In other words, the performer of Seder sends forth its mind to influence a variety of things, according to the task the practitioner of Seder wants to perform. As I've said, Seder isn't witchcraft, and in my opinion, it can't be considered the only form of magic of the ancient Norse societies. I see that people often include within Seder the art of Galdr or Galdur. Of course, Galdur in later times seems to have taken some moral connotations and became a magical art more honorable to use, whilst Seder was considered shameful and unmanly, womanish. But aside from social differences, originally there were certain technical distinctions between these two forms of magic, which makes them two distinct magical practices and not branches of the same. We have other magical and or shamanic techniques which can be argued as being branches of the same form of magic or other distinct forms of magic, other than the two main ones, Seder and Galdur. For instance, we have deieties, which was a type of shamanic divination. This technique was to spend the night out on crossways amidst invocations to the powers of darkness, to reveal secrets or counsel. This was a shamanic ritualistic performance which required being out there, sitting in darkness and chant invocations. This can be argued to be a completely different form of magic, or a branch of Seder, or even a mixture of both Seder and Galdur techniques, but we can't put it in the same bag as Seder with certainty. And when I said that Galdur was considered more honorable and Seder was considered to be shameful and womanish, these social differences existed in Norse societies because Seder was a woman's trade. The sources make it clear that Seder was women's magic, with the exception of Odin. As I've said, Seder is related to spinning, much like the forces of the world are spun and therefore are connected, changing the aspects of life, so is Seder spun to affect a variety of realities of life. This aspect of Seder is reflected on a couple of deities, like the Norns, for instance, the Norse goddesses of fate, the female deities that spin the life threads of every human being, or on the figure of Frigg, who became associated with spinning and weaving because some of Freya's magical connections remained alive in the figure of Frigg. As you know, and as I've said on another video, Frigg and Freya are the same goddess, but Freya's cult diminished due to the social changes of the Viking Age and later with the introduction of Christianity. And so Freya was transformed into Frigg, who was transformed into a domestic goddess, and so certain domestic traits connected to the magic of Freya were kept in the figure of Frigg, like spinning and weaving.
Now, Norse mythology, as well as other systems of mythology around the globe, is sometimes challenged by people today who insist that it embodies a sort of patrifocal, patrilinear, in other words, male-dominated perspective. And it's true that there are not many stories about the goddesses that are preserved. There's just no way around that. It's an interesting question, and still an open question, whether this is a phenomenon of how many stories were once told before the conversion to Christianity, or whether it's a problem with how many stories about goddesses were preserved from before the Scandinavian countries were converted to Christianity. And I'm not sure which way to go on that personally. It certainly seems true that in this very sometimes people say hyper-martial. I think that's a little bit wrong because it's not a professional warrior society. The Norse aren't Spartans, but it is a hyper-masculine society that definitely emphasizes male virtues and values and strengths. I think it is quite possible that this is part of the reality of this culture, that they didn't tell that many stories about goddesses. But I also think that it's quite likely that there's a bottleneck here too, and that those who wrote down the stories that are preserved in the 1200s, whoever wrote down the Poetic Edda, and then Snorri Sturluson writing down his Prose Edda, were more concerned with portraying stories about male gods, particularly because the patrons of poets were male gods, Odin, and to a much more minor degree, perhaps Bragi. And so I think that even the degree to which our written sources emphasize the role of Odin above, say, Thor, is probably an issue of preservation rather than an issue of what was originally told, and possibly something like that is going on with goddesses as well. So let's begin by looking at some issues with the data set that we're working with. Again, we can't anticipate a sequel, as it were, to the Eddas. We've got the Poetic Edda, this anonymous compilation of poems. We have the Prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson's perspective on those poems, more or less. We really can't sit around and wait for a new Edda, right? You know, the Edda 3 to come out or something like that. People always want that. People always want more detail on gods and goddesses that are only vaguely mentioned in the Eddas. But we're really just working with what we've got, and what we've got hasn't changed a whole lot in the whole history of modern scholarship since the 19th century. I often compare the Eddas to a shipwreck. And I don't mean that in the sense that my life is a shipwreck, but I mean that what you've got is these two books, essentially, which are the wrecked remnants of a ship that once sailed, right? We have pieces here and there of this ship, which was once a living religion. We don't have the entire ship, right? Some of it's rotting away. Some of it was probably destroyed when whatever caused it to wrecked it. Some of it has just been pulverized over the course of time by the waves of time, if you will. And so we're trying to reconstruct this ship, but the particular ship that we've got that we're trying to reconstruct based on the Eddas is really late Icelandic belief, because we can tell that things were different in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. You know, there were a lot of local variations. There was variation over time. Norse myth appears to have changed significantly from the earliest sources we can trace to the latest sources we can trace. And of course, there would be even bigger differences if you're talking about related Germanic peoples' myths in England, Germany, among the Goths, etc. So it's all very challenging. And our clearest picture, again, is probably that of the latest beliefs of the latest pagans in Iceland. Now, that being said, looking at the Eddas, we do have poems where these goddesses, Frigg and Freya, are pretty clearly different. For example, in the fairly late poem, Odrunargróttur, in the Poetic Edda, we see a request. May all the goddesses, Freya and Frigg and all the others, help you, Odrun, since you have saved me from death in childbirth. Well, this is a kind wish, but this poem probably dates from the 1100s after the conversion, as some other poems in the Poetic Edda no doubt do. Mostly in the heroic tradition, although some of the heroic poems are also some of the oldest.
Gold is called Freya's weaving. Yeah, all right, there you go. So again, the reference to Freya and gold. Prose Edda, it gives us information we wouldn't have otherwise. It doesn't really go too in-depth about it. Take with it as you will. I'm really just presenting this information to you. Previously, it does mention Folkvagner again. So Folkvagner is mentioned here as well. It just simply says there's a place called Folkvagner, and there Freya is in charge of allotting seats in the hall. Half the slain she chooses every day, and half has Odin. So it's basically the same thing the Poetic Edda. But then it goes further to explain that Sessrumnir, her hall, it is large and beautiful. And when she travels, she drives 2 cats and sits in a chariot. She is the most approachable one for people to pray to, and from her name is derived the honorific title whereby noble ladies are called, Frölvr, which means noble ladies. She is very fond of love songs, and it is good to pray to her concerning love affairs.
Freya, Völva, deieties gefjon hör, men glada.
So in here it talks about Freya on page 86, stanzas 18-22. How shall Freya be referred to? By calling her daughter of Njord, sister of Frey, wife of Odd, mother of Hnoss, possessor of the fallen slain, and of Seismir and Tomcats, of Brisingamen, Von deity, Von lady, fair tier deity, all Asinir can be referred to by naming the name of another one and referring to them by their possession or deeds or descent. So really, this is just telling you how to refer to her, and obviously brings up things that were already previously mentioned within Gylfaginning. Lokasenna is an interesting story. It's very entertaining. It's a story of essentially Loki insulting everybody within Asgard. He kind of takes his time with each deity and insults them for a few lines, and he does the same with Freya. So this information comes from stanzas 30 to 32 for the most part. Loki said, "Silence, Freya, you are a witch, and you have dealt out many curses." The Christian influences of trying to demonize her, women who embraced who they were, and so they demonized her quite a bit. So it's hard to say whether this is something that the traditional pre-Christian Scandinavian people actually saw her as, or if this was just something that got put on her later on. But we also have to consider this is Loki saying these things. Loki actually calling her a witch, while again he is, insulting her, at the same time it is alluding to the fact that she does have some abilities, which we will see small references to the extent of that power later on. Here's one line that I do want to read, because this is another thing that shows her magic, and it's so subtle, and you'll miss it if you just read through the story pretty fast, as many of us do, but it is quite interesting. So this comes from stanza 12 through 13 in Finnskivla. This is also where Freya defends her, ladyship from being perceived of being with Thor. So yeah, I'll just read it to you. "And then they went to find lovely Freya. The first thing Thor said was this: 'Freya, put on this wedding dress. The two of us, man and woman, are going to Jotunheim.' Freya was angry. She snorted so hard that the homes of the gods shook all around them. Her necklace, Brisingamen, trembled on her neck. 'They would call me a lewd, loose woman if I went with you to Jotunheim.'" So again, you get to see her defending her, ladyship, so to speak. But also the fact that she was so angry that she shook Asgard. She shook the homes of the gods. It's such a small line, such a fast thing to move past. But her magic was so strong and her anger so severe that she literally shook Asgard with her powers. And it says that, Brisingamen, her necklace, was trembling because of the power. So is this, is the necklace a source of her power? Maybe. It seems that a lot of the gods within the mythos have items that give them their abilities. So maybe Brisingamen is something that gives her magical powers, or at least amplifies it in some way. It's a very small line, but, I think it is something that, again, very briefly, that if we look past, you'll look right by it. But it definitely seems that Freya is a really powerful sorceress, especially, and they are tied to her emotions to some extent.
Brisingamen. Norse mythology is full of fantastic objects that had special powers or symbolism. Brisingamen, the shining necklace of the goddess Freya. But what made Brisingamen special, and what does it reveal about its owner? The name Brisingamen can be interpreted in two ways. The second part, Amen, means necklace of torque. The first part, Bersinger, could be a poetic term for fire or amber, suggesting that Brisingamen meant necklace gleamed like the sun. That Brisingamen possessed some sort of power is also suggested by the archaeological record. Freya was the goddess of magic and taught Seidr magic to both the Aesir gods and men. Völva, female practitioners of Seidr magic in Midgard, were her creatures. The burial of one Völva has been discovered at Hage Bihoga in Östergötland. Among her numerous rich grave gods was a silver pendant representing a woman wearing a broad necklace. This image may represent Freya in her role as a Seidr sorceress and point towards an association between Brisingamen and Seidr. The goddess of magic. More than one type of magic existed in the Norse worldview. Seidr is the type mentioned most often in the surviving myths. Seidr was a type of magic that centered around fate. Simple spells and potions could change fate in minor ways, such as causing a person to fall in love or sleep through an important event. More powerful practitioners of Seidr could use the magic to truly understand and influence the workings of fate, entering a trance-like state, which is possibly just the right hemisphere state, where you relax and open up, and then things can happen. You get into the flow state, and the brainwaves change. And I imagine in that state you also receive messages from the spirit world, whereas in the left hemisphere dominant society we have just shut it out, everything. We are too busy to listen. So they could peer between realms to see the complex web of threads that represented the events of each person's life. These magic users could interpret these threads to make prophecies about the future or learn truths about the past. A few were even powerful enough to slightly move the threads to make minor changes to fate. Freya was considered to be a master of these magical arts. It was said that the Aesir had no knowledge of Seidr until Freya joined them and began to teach her skills. Odin quickly adopted this new magic and became an accomplished Seidr user. Many of his myths highlight his search for new magical knowledge, such as the secrets of the runes or forgotten incantations. Some claimed, however, that Freya's power was still stronger than Odin's. Although he became exceptionally powerful, his skill never quite matched Freya's own. Odin also had to make great sacrifices to learn his art. Freya seemed to come by her powers naturally. Even the gods, however, had little knowledge of the depths of Freya's abilities. Unlike Odin, she rarely shared what she knew. Many scholars consider it possible that Freya had more knowledge of many of the foretold events in mythology than Odin did. She demonstrated more wisdom by keeping what she knew a secret. Freya Goddess Family Tree. To tell the truth, there are some inaccuracies in the family tree of Freya due to the different interpretations of mythology. Still, we can just refer to some mythic sources as the Poetic Edda. We know for sure that Freya was a part of the Vanir family of gods. Let's disassemble with the family ties of the Nordic goddess. Freya's mother and father. Freya was a daughter of Njord, a god of Vanir. He was often associated with the sea, wind, fishing, sailing, and wealth. It is considered that Njord lived near the sea in a great hall, Noatun. There isn't a final answer when asked who is the mother of the goddess Freya. Maybe she was Njord's sister. Another source considered that her mother appeared as a wife of Njord called Skadi. But it is most likely that the mother of Freya was Nertus, an old Germanic deity. Nertus was a goddess of plenty and peace. Freya's brother. Freyr was the brother of Freya, and possibly her twin. He was a god of prosperity, fortune, peace, pleasure, and male virility. Freyr also originated from Vanir and lived in the realm of Alfheim. According to the pictures of the Nordic deities, Freyr had a phallus that was common among fertility gods. Freyr was also famous for his passion for horses. He was always associated with the cult of these domestic animals. It is considered that a god kept his sacred horses in a sanctuary at Trondheim in Norway. Freya's husband. The popular question is, who was the goddess Freya married to? It is a common belief that Odin was Freya's husband. He was distinguished from other gods by his mysterious, furious, and passionate spirit. Odin was often spent a lot of time on long journeys and made Freya cry with golden tears. Freya's daughters. After a marriage, Freya had 2 daughters, Hnoss and Gersemi. It is mentioned in the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson. The meaning of both names is treasure or preciousness, and it's usually associated with something valuable. What food is associated with the goddess Freya? Freya is often associated with such plants as almond, mint, valerian, birdberry, arnica, holly, strawberry, daisy, opium, poppy, and also from another source I heard primrose. When we talk about food, it first goes to ale, apples, strawberries, honey, meadow, barley, and pork. These products are Freya's favorite. Use this food to satisfy the Nordic goddess, while a ritual is dedicated for her. How to give thanks to the goddess Freya. Many believers refer to the goddess Freya with prayers of love, marriage, and childbirth. This Norse goddess is a patroness of a woman's fortune and sexuality, as well as she is a keeper of runes. Here is a short description of a ritual to honor Freya. You need to remember that Freya's sacred colors are red and silver. Sacred flowers are daisies and primroses, and sacred fruit is strawberry. Be sure you have all these attributes before the ritual. 1. Get ready for your altar. Decorate it with daisies and or primroses and use silver and red colors. 2. Put silver candles at each corner, since you should refer to the 4 corners of the vault. Make sure you have proper offerings for the Freya goddess. It may be strawberries, flowers, honey, jewelry, pork, apples, etc. 4. Cleanse your sacred place with frankincense. Flowery and sweet spirit will be the best choice. 5. Then light your candles and call each side of the vault in turn with the words: I call upon the powers of the east, powers of air, to help me clear my mind. I call upon the powers of the south, powers of fire, inspire me of my inner strength. I call upon the powers of the west, powers of water, which reunite me with the mother's blood. I call upon the powers of the North, powers of the earth, to keep my body strong and my mind concrete. 6. Invoke the spirit of Freya using the following words. Freya, goddess of magic, mother of the earth, keeper of the runes, I invite you to join me. Freya, the goddess of the many names, goddess of nature and fertility, mother of the silver moon, hear me. Freya, goddess of love, join me. Freya, your guidance and prudence I seek. Come to me now. 7. Thank the goddess for all of her blessings and her help. Thank the goddess for all of her blessings and her help. 8. Spend a few minutes in meditation to feel around the spirit of Goddess Freya. 9. Be grateful for the presence by expressing words of gratitude. 10. Slowly come to your senses. Out of trance. 11. Take the offering and put it outside for consumption by nature. 12. You can use all of the attributes for the next ritual in the honor of a Norse goddess Freya. Friday is considered to be the best day in the week to invoke Freya, since the word Friday is translated as Freya's Day. In addition, Freya's sacred numbers is 13. There are 13 lunar cycles in a year. According to this, the best day to make a ritual dedicated to Freya, goddess, is Friday the 13th.
I should try to tell you what Freya represents to me. It would probably go like this. She's the core of fire at the very center of my being.
As warrior goddesses, we are learning to shift our attention away from how we think we are supposed to be, in favor of finding out who we really are at the soul level. I hear from many women who have big dreams or even small hopes, and are frustrated because they can't seem to reach the goals they've set for themselves. They have a sense of what is possible and a yearning for change, but they find themselves responding to and managing the chaos of their days, rather than carving a clear, creative and focused path for themselves and their future. Red Tara, Kurukulla. The Diva Dakini of enlightened magic. I was also prompted to look into the Red Tara again. I had this booklet for years in my bookshelf, given to me by a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, who is quite well known here in this area. He and his brother are giving many teachings in Tibetan meditation and practice. That's Loten Dahorsam, but it was his brother that recommended that I start practicing with the red Tara. My little shrine that spontaneously developed, coming from the ceremony. It's all there, all the elements that were with me during the ceremony. I never quite had the connection yet established, but now it seems it's the right time. Kurukulla, the diva dakini of enlightened magic, the enchantress transforms seductions into the cause of wisdom. Kurukulla is a beautiful modern celebrity endorsing a worthy cause. She projects the divine and enlightened beauty to attract us to the Dharma. She uses her enchanting magic to remove our obstacles to practice. As a Dakini, a higher tantric practice, she is the very cause of wisdom. Her Tibetan name, Rigiyedna, literally translates as she who is cause of knowledge. Although she has her own tantras and practices, she is considered an emanation of Tara, Darobhava Kurukulla, the Kurukulla who arises from Tara, red Tara, Scrolma de Marpo, as described in the Practice Manual of Noble Tara Kurukulla, translated from the introductory commentary of the Kangyur text. The Practice Manual of Noble Tara Kurukulla, Arya Tara Kurukulla Kalpa. The Practice Manual of Noble Tara Kurukulla is the most comprehensive single work on the female Buddhist deity Kurukulla. It is also the only canonical scripture to focus on this deity. The text's importance is therefore commensurate with the importance of the goddess herself, who is the chief Buddhist deity of magnetizing, in particular the magnetizing which takes the form of enthrallment. The text is a treasury of ritual practices connected with enthrallment and similar magical acts, practices which range from formal sadhana to Homa ritual, and to magical methods involving herbs, minerals, etc. The text's varied contents are presented as a multi-layered blend of the apotropic and soteriological as well as the practical and philosophical, where these complementary opposites combine together into a genuinely spiritual Buddhist work. As a female deity, she is understood to embody the wisdom aspect of enlightenment, i.e. emptiness, and as a form of the Severus Tara, herself a manifestation of Avalokitesvara. She personifies all-embracing compassion. But her particular quality is related to the activity of enlightenment. Many great vehicle scriptures describe the spontaneous and effortless activity of Buddhas for the benefit of beings. Culmination of the pristine awareness and compassion of all conquerors, all arising as the bliss emptiness, goddess of power, controlling all beings of the three realms with a charming form. All the Buddhas are mind itself. By mind itself one is liberated. Possibly right hemisphere heart connection. Bondage is broken by the mind. Through mind one attains freedom. Apart from, in the mind, things and entities are not seen anywhere at all. Hence, there is no perfection to be seen. Apart from Buddhahood and all the accomplishments, the environments and sentient beings, the elements and their derivatives, have been declared to be mind only, by those who possess the undefiled special vision. Therefore, one should make every effort to cleanse the mirror of the mind. Faults which are by nature extrinsic will gradually be utterly exhausted. Having engendered a mind of compassion, one should as well bring forth a mind of joy. Afterwards, one should regard everything with equanimity, in its condition of being mind only. Then, in order to discard the ordinary, the mind must once more be emptied. The 5 aggregates of the process of re-existence shall be consumed by the fire of emptiness. Om Shunyata Inana Vajra Svaha Vat Mako Ham. For a while, one should practice this emptiness yoga, and so bring the mind refreshing rest. Shunyata, or emptiness, is a Buddhist technical term which refers to the fact that phenomena lack permanence and substantiality or essence. This mantra is used in tantric rituals to remind the yogin of this basic Buddhist teaching and to try to evoke the experience of it. Normally, we experience a series of jolts when we discover that things don't last, or provide satisfaction because we fail to see the true nature of things. The Shunyata mantra helps us tune into impermanence and insubstantiality. The mantra appears in visualization practices as a prelude to visualizing the yidam. There is another mantra which is commonly called the Shunyata mantra, which I have labeled the purity mantra to distinguish it from this mantra. Transliteration. Om Shunyata Inana Vajra Svaha Vatmakoham. Translates literally as Om, emptiness, knowing, diamond, self, nature, essence, I. In The Code of Tara, Stephen Bayer renders it, Om, I am the very self, whose essence is the diamond knowledge of emptiness. Before reaching Buddha consciousness, Tara was a woman walking on the Bodhisattva path. This woman made a vow to continue her journey until she reached enlightenment in the female body. After reaching the highest enlightenment, she manifested herself in different female forms. Tara supports those who seek enlightenment and those who seek protection in it. She is an example that anyone can achieve enlightenment, regardless of whether it is a man or a woman. There are 21 manifestations of Goddess Tara. 21. These manifestations have their distinctive features, and each of them has its own mantra. The different colors of 21 Taras correspond to 4 different types of awakened functions. And the most well-known are the green Tara and the white Tara. Way less known in the West especially is the red Tara. So for me, it seems the time has come to connect and work with the aspect of the red Tara. Red Tara, Dolma Marpo, has a number of manifestations, emanations. Here are some of them. The red wisdom, Inanna Dakini, female Buddha aspect embodying the highest wisdom of all Buddhas. She is depicted in a joy state, in a joyfully dancing form. She holds a chopping knife with her raised right hand, and her left hand holds a skull bow at her heart. Wisdom Dakini is Red Tara's peaceful form. Vajra Yogini, Dorje Naljorma, is one of the tantric goddesses who is said to be the embodiment of compassion and wisdom. Her name, Vajra Yogini, can be translated as the diamond female yogi. She is responsible for the transformation of the most mundane of daily experiences into something that is essentially a higher spiritual path. Vajra Yogini is considered to be Red Tara's semi-wrathful form. Vajra Varahi, Dorje Pakmo, also known as the Diamond Soul. The conventional iconography of Vajra Varahi shows the deity holding a knife and a bowl of blood, and wearing other grotesque attributes that symbolize her power over worldly concerns and fear of death. Vajra Varahi is considered to be Red Tara's wrathful form. Dakini Kurukulla is the Dakini of magic and enchantments. Red Tara is often depicted as a dancing, voluptuous female figure. The dancing form symbolizes the elusive, playful nature of emptiness, shunyata, and the pure joy of clear light. Her red color symbolizes the West, fire, Padma family, lotus, and notably the family of speech or Dharma. Red streams of light emanating from her symbolize her compassion reaches out to all beings. Red Tara is the goddess of great wisdom, power, magic, and charm. She is the mother of liberation. It is believed that if the Red Tara mantra is repeated 10,000 times, all wishes will be fulfilled. Red Tara helps us in the accumulation of spiritual forces. She can subdue and enslave a demon or person who stands in your way. Red Tara is the goddess of wealth and abundance. Sometimes to help humanity, Red Tara even comes down to earth. She helps people overcome difficult obstacles and changes people's lives in the blink of an eye. Red Tara is the Buddhist goddess of magic and occult science. She represents the feminine principle in nature. Her compassion and kindness help everyone who is in trouble or afraid of something. Red Tara is a manifestation of the pure power of enlightenment, the amazing purity of an awakened consciousness that overcomes all negativity. She is known for enslaving evil spirits, demons, or people who tried to interfere with the spiritual development of mankind. In Tibet, Red Tara is worshipped before starting a new monastery, before starting a new business venture, when faced with legal problems, etc. Magical aspect of Tara. Everyone loves a little magic. Kurukulla is all about the enchantment. Like other emanations of Tara, who might use their divine beauty to attract and influence, Kurukulla embraces this concept, but to an erotic extreme. It is the exotic, magical, and miraculous aspect that have kept Kurukulla, the passionate lotus dakini, popular both today and in past centuries. Although she is often associated with attraction and magnetizing, an overall aspect of the Red Lotus family of Amitabha, Chenrezig, and Hayagriva, she is not a mundane deity. Despite depictions of her magnetizing powers as magical, they are not for the corrupted purpose of attracting a mate or money or luxuries. Like other emanations of Tara, she is about the activities of compassion, in this case attracting and enchanting. And like all Taras, this is a skillful means to help us remove obstacles in our own practice by attracting good fortune to the Sangha or to the practitioner. With a virtuous bodhicitta goal, her practice can have the virtuous aspect of creating auspicious conditions for practice. So again, the synchronicity was fire, Freya, and the red Tara. They are possibly two sides of the same coin. Kurukulla, patroness of magic, love, sorcery, and healing. In one Kurukulla sadhana found in the Sadhanamala, number 72, there occurs a list of 8 great siddhis or magical powers acquired through her practice. Khadga Siddhi, Ralgri, the power to be invincible in battle with a sword. Anjana Siddhi, Migrtsi, the power to remove ordinary lack of sight by using a magical ointment that enables the user to see devas, nagas, and other spirits. 3. Badalepa Siddhi, Rangpa I Byukpa, the power to be swift of foot by using a magical ointment that, when applied to the feet, allows the user to run with incredible swiftness. Number 4. Antaradana Siddhi, Mig Snangbar Gyurba, the power to become invisible. 5. Rasayana Siddhi, Pkut Len, the power to rejuvenation and long life through obtaining the elixir of life by way of an alchemical process. Number 6. Gechara Siddhi, Mka Spiot, the power to levitate or to fly through the sky. 7. Buchara Siddhi, Zing Spiot, the power to move freely through the earth, mountains, and solid walls. 8. Batala city. Saog, the power to have command over the spirits of the underworld. Batala. See, there are many synchronicities here. Interesting. When the spirits guide you, you just are led to things that fit together so nicely. There is no right or wrong way to be a warrior goddess, so whether you are new to the process or a seasoned warrior goddess veteran, I welcome you. The mission of the warrior goddess movement is to help you transform into who you are meant to be by going on a deep journey within. As you progress on the warrior goddess path, you will cultivate two aspects of your inner being: a fierce warrior focus and commitment, and the compassionate goddess face. Receptivity and creative flow.
Om Tare Tham Soha, Om Tare Tham Soha.